Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Sorry for a little bit of a delay. Thank you for coming. Welcome to our fourth event in the series, So You Think You Can Be Anti-Racist. This chapter is called Black and LGBTQ+ Intersectionality. My name's Mikey Clowers, and I'm a graduate student at MD Anderson Cancer Center.
My name is Juwan Copeland, and I am a second year Baylor College of Medicine graduate student.
And I am Tamaya Pamplin. I'm a second year graduate student at MD Anderson, and today we will be your moderators for this part of the series.
Before I begin introducing our speakers, I'd like to thank the students that have worked hard and continue to work hard to put this series together, and the various Baylor College of Medicine and UT Health organizations that have helped sponsor this event. This event was made possible by students and trainees who founded the Medical and Science Coalition for Activism, or the MSCA, an organization whose mission is to advocate for marginalized groups and make our community more socially just, diverse, inclusive, and equitable. Be sure to follow MSCA on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and visit our Linktree site to find out how to get involved. All information can be found in the chat feature of Zoom. Please note that this session is being recorded and will be archived. You can submit any questions via the Q&A section at any time during the talks. We will have members of our team monitoring these questions, where we will ask them in a moderated Q&A after presentations. Our first speaker is one of our own MSCA members, Juwan Copeland. Juwan is a second-year student at Baylor College of Medicine in the Genetics and Genomics program. He is openly bisexual and has been so for about 7 years now. During this time, he has attended Pride festivals, social gatherings within the LGBTQ+ community, and has advocated for equal rights for the community, from adopting children to marriage. He is a researcher, hip-hop dancer, and an advocate for social justice, especially supporting Black Lives Matter. He also wishes to continue in developing a more inclusive environment for students like himself and others. Please welcome Juwan. Juwan, take it away.
Thank you so much for that great introduction, Mikey. Hello, everybody. My name is Juwan, and today I'm going to talk to you guys and girls about my experience being bisexual and out, and my journey thus far, and also just a couple of other things dealing with intersectionality and the Black and LGBT+ community. Let me get my slides here. Okay. So a lot of you may not know what LGBTQ+ actually stands for, so I thought I would just start with the basics. So L is lesbian, G is gay, B is bisexual, T is transgender, and Q can be either queer or questioning. But often people don't think about the plus side of the LGBTQ+ community. And there are a lot of other names that fall into this category, such as transsexual, asexual, pansexual, non-binary, and so on and so forth. So this is just a good list for people to have in case you don't know what that plus is. These are all the names that I could find that's considered in the plus. So just to give you guys some background about me, I am openly bisexual, meaning that I like both women and men. And let's see, we can start with, I'm sure that Mikey has said that I mentioned the Pride festivals. In the middle picture that you guys can see with me holding that flag, that was my very first Pride festival I've ever went to at the Ohio State University, where I attended undergraduate at. And that was my first experience in just embracing the full community of what the LGBTQ+ community has to offer. It was nothing but love there. Of course, you're always going to have haters, you know, to the side, protesting this and this and that and how this is wrong, whatever. But ultimately, I would say 95% of this was such a great and happy feeling to feel. And I advise anybody to try to go to a Pride festival, whether you're gay, straight, bisexual, whatever, because there's so much happiness and so much joy, and you can't do anything but smile and dance and wear all these beautiful colors and be extravagant. To the left corner, sorry, I can try to use my laser here. It's been acting a little bit weird. But to the corner was my second year of Pride, and I attended with a couple of my friends that went to Ohio State with me. And that was also a great experience as well. It's just like every Pride Festival is different, so you never get bored. One thing about my community, both communities, Black or LGBTQ plus, is that we are creative. We don't get tired of being creative either. And that goes along with Pride a long way. So I always try to attend as many prides as I can. Unfortunately, with all this pandemic and craziness going on, I know that Houston may not be having theirs or maybe postponed. But I still would love to go to a Houston Pride. I have yet to experience a Houston Pride, and I heard that it's so festive. It's like the festivities are crazy and the love is in the air, and I can't wait to attend that next year, if not this year. Another thing that I'll talk about is what's on the right corner top when it says bisexuals are confused, and then in the little parentheses it says bi or prejudice. This goes a long way because there's a thing called biphobia. And with biphobia, it's like people are afraid to be with a bisexual male or female, but mostly I have to say males that I've seen, just because that, especially with women, just because that they are still attracted to males. And I would just like to say that that's kind of can be unreasonable because when you are with somebody, you are with them. It should not matter if they are attracted to men and women, but if they are with a man, then they are with them. If they are with the women, they are with them. People are allowed to like, you know, they're allowed to be on the spectrum. We shouldn't be confined to just being straight or just being gay. There, you know, I just mentioned the LGBTQ plus community. There's a plus there, and there's also the B in the first 5 letters of the community. And it's kind of crazy how bisexual men get downplayed so much as being seen as greedy or confused or, oh, here's my favorite. Oh, he's just gay. He's just afraid to say it, you know? And a lot of the time that's not the case. You know, people are bisexual. And just because women can be bisexual and that's more accepted, I feel like that I wanted to raise awareness about how in both communities, whether it be in the straight community or in the LGBTQ plus community, bisexual people can take heat from both communities, and it's very hurtful. So I just wanted to kind of raise awareness that, you know, bisexual men are real. I'm one of them. And, you know, just don't downplay people's stories and experiences. And if somebody says this is who they are, don't try to group them in a box that they say that they're not supposed to be in that box. They told you who they are and they said what they said. So I feel like that is a serious, important lesson to take away from all this, is just to be open and listen to others, because it all starts from there. Another picture that I have is with my boyfriend. So we've been together since March, but I have known him for about 7 years now. He was my best friend before we ever got together or anything, and then it just blossomed into this beautiful relationship that we have now. He has been a great support system even before he was my boyfriend. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but it's so important to have a good support system with you, especially during your time that you're quote unquote coming out or trying new experiences, such as going to your first Pride, because I know that some people can look at it as kind of uncomfortable. And trust me, I understand, you know, the first time I was there, you know, I was out, but I've never experienced anything like it. So it's okay. That's why I went with my group of friends and we all had a great time. And I had straight friends come with me, gay friends, it didn't matter. We all had a great time. That's why I very much so advise y'all to at least try one Pride. I promise you, you are not going to regret it. The last little picture I have right here is National Coming Out Day, which is on October 11th. And basically, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of my coming out story, because I want to shine light on how important it is for LGBTQ plus individuals to come out themselves and not have somebody out them, because it's hurtful and it goes a long way. So with me, I came out, I guess, to my parents about 16 or 17 years old. And the first person I came out to was my mom. And with my mom, you know, with my family, on my mom's side. At the time, they had said some kind of joke about homosexual people. And at the time, I'm just sitting in the living room, listening to them kind of giggling about it, and I feel hurt. My mom doesn't know anything about me. My family didn't know anything about me at the time. So what I decided to do, oh yeah, and this was the same time that Frank Ocean had actually wrote a letter to his audience, to us, saying, describing his experiences with his first boyfriend and how everything ended and how he felt at the time. So Frank Ocean is a huge inspiration for me, and he actually is the person that inspired me to start my first step into truly being my full self. So seeing him do that was an inspiration. And I don't know if you guys know about Odd Future, his rap group that he was in with Tyler the Creator and all of them, but they were a crazy group of friends, and I had that same exact group of friends back in high school. And so even that, when he came out, and I always thought my friends would treat me differently, this and this and that. He came out and all his friends accepted him, especially Tyler the Creator, which I never thought so, because in his raps he sometimes used the word fag and stuff like that, but he loves Frank, and they're brothers still to this day. So he had inspired me to come out, and after I seen him post that letter in public, I then decided to write my mom a letter. And right after she had dropped me off to my dad's house, I had gave her the letter. So mind you, I'm over at my dad's house, kind of anxious. I don't know what's going to happen next. I never thought that I would do it this soon. I always thought that I was going to tell my parents whenever I was 100% sure that I was going to marry a man, and that would be the day I tell my parents, okay, I also like men. However, just seeing what was going on, I know that my mom is a very caring person, and I wanted them to know that what they were doing was wrong. And not only was it wrong, but it's also affecting somebody that they love that they just don't know about yet fully. So, so when my mom, I wrote the letter to her, and she, like, about 20 minutes later, she turned the car around and she got out the car and she was just crying, and then she wanted me to come outside. I came outside and she gave me the biggest hug that a mom could give their son. And she just said, I don't care, who you are, what you are, you will always be my baby. I love you to death, and I'm so sorry for doing that. None of that will happen again. I will straighten everybody out, and so on and so forth. And she did. And she was the first person in my family, besides my friends, because I did tell some of my friends first, but the first person that was my blood that accepted me. And for her to be my mom, it was liberating. It was. I felt so much energy that day. And my dad is just like, why they crying? Like, what's going on? Because, my dad doesn't know anything yet. It's just me and my mom at this point. So here's when the story gets kind of crazy. With my dad, so I was dating my first real relationship at the time. I had a boyfriend, and sometimes I would bring him over to the house, And my dad wouldn't think anything of it because, if you want to use the terms masculine and feminine, back then, I was kind of, masculine. So, and he was too. So it wasn't anything that my dad, was thinking of when I was inviting him over or anything like that. However, my friends knew, and a lot of my school knew too. And some of my family members knew, including one particular individual. And this individual decided to actually out me to my dad. And they just told him, my stepmom, everything about me, everything that they thought that they knew about me. And from that point, me and my dad got into a huge argument, and it led to me actually getting kicked out of my house, getting kicked out of the house. So to that point, I knew that I would use that as a learning experience to tell anyone that's on this call that if you have people in your life that is in an LGBTQ community, LGBTQ plus community, and they're not ready to be out in the world and to tell everybody and their moms, because first of all, you really don't have to. It's your business. What you decide to do with your business is, that's on you. However, if people do actually try to, be out and open and, be as gay as they can be without having a care in the world, then it's just different. And I just would just advise people not to push them to, out themselves or to tell any other family members or friends, but they have to do it when they're ready. Because from my experience, because I wasn't ready to tell my dad, it ended up with me getting kicked out the house and us having a very rocky relationship for the next 3 or so months. And I would have to say that it was one of the most hurtful times of my life, not having my dad be there and on standby whenever I needed. I mean, I know that if I really needed him, he was there, but at the same time, it's like we got into this big argument just because of who I am. However, just because my family member did that to me and disrespectful by all means, I forgave them, and me and my dad are actually the best of friends now. And when I say best of friends, I mean best of friends. Like, he is one of my number one supporters next to my mom. It did take him a little bit longer to come around compared to my mom. However, me and him are the best of friends. That's not the case in a lot of cases, though. When you out somebody, right, you never know what's going to happen. And you think that you're doing good and you're doing them justice by being the person that's doing it, but you're really not. I can tell you that in most situations, you're probably not. You're making the situation worse. So don't force people to come out of the closet. I kind of hate saying out of the closet. I know it's not a term that some people like to use, but just for the sake, for lack of a better term, I'm just going to continue to use that. But don't out people out the closet if they're not ready. Bottom line, it's not your job, and it's not your business to do that anyway. So I definitely wanted to just say that about anybody, an ally, or whether, you gay yourself and you're out and your friend is, a part of the gay community, but they're not as out as you. Doesn't matter. Don't go out your way to out them. Wait for them to be comfortable outing themselves. And I'll move. Oh, and sorry, last but not least is the Black LGBT and Allies for Equality. I love seeing flags and stuff at marches like this. They're beautiful and they go a long way, but I'll talk a little bit more about that in another slide. So things about me being Black and me being bisexual. So it's kind of hard for me sometimes for me to fully embrace who I 100% am. Because of people like this within, the Black community who, think kids do best with a mom and dad. You have some Black people that are homophobic. I still do have some family members that, are homophobic, or at least they'll tolerate it, but they still don't like it or don't want respect or whatever. And I just think that can be kind of silly because we're already a marginalized group. So let's not make it harder for ourselves, So you have people like this that has the kids do best with the mom and dad sign. Well, I'm gonna need to see the receipts because a 2018 study actually proved that there was no difference in family relationships or child outcomes between a gay couple raising children and or same-sex couple raising children, and also heterosexual couple raising children. So people that always say that, with mom and dad, especially with trying to adopt kids and have kids any other way, with in vitro fertilization or however you put it. And people always put up this argument of, kids do best with a mom and dad. You need a mom and dad to have a fully functional home. Again, show me the receipts, because I have receipts saying that 2018 study said otherwise. So a lot of people just like to talk out the side of their neck, I like to say, and sometimes you really just have to be humble and take a deep breath and just show them the facts, because what will they have to say against the facts besides their own opinion? So that's a kind of a problem that I can experience within my black community sometimes, and let's not be in denial. There's a lot of homophobia. I'm not going to say that, I think it's gotten a lot better since back then. Like I was just watching a show from back then, and one of the main person's cousins was gay, and the main person like walked away and was mad about it, you know. And this was like a '90s show, and that kind of hurt. I'm not even gonna say kind of, that did hurt. But you know, now we see way more representation of the black gay or black LGBTQ plus community, and I love seeing myself on the TV screen. So it's a wonderful thing. Within the gay community, though, you have people like this dude, Jeffree Star, who is a full-blown racist. He used multiple N-words, and you know, with the hard R, always he called a black woman a gorilla. I could go on, right? But he still constantly gets a ton of support from the LGBTQ plus community. I have no idea why. You know, there are literally receipts and videos of him saying this to black people, multiple black people, and yet black LGBTQ plus and not even black. Well, you know, even if you are black and within the LGBTQ plus community, and I'm really looking at you like, But even, you know, if you're white, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter. You know, you have somebody that's being blatant racist to your face, has not apologized, right? Or I guess he has some kind of, you know, half apology or whatever. But at the end of the day, he's a racist. And the LGBTQ plus community keeps supporting him in his makeup and all that, when in actuality, we need to cancel him. Now, I'm not talking about the cancel culture cancel. I'm talking about like actually canceling him, like not buying any of his products, not promoting it, unfollowing him on everything, unfollowing the people that he works with. And there might be some people in here, I'm not for sure who's on here, but there might be some people in here that's saying that, you know, he has a black boyfriend, so he couldn't possibly be racist. Girls, no. That's just like racist people saying, you know, my best friend is black, so I can't be racist. You know, have you ever heard a racist person say that? You know, it's very triggering. Just because you have a black boyfriend doesn't mean anything, honey. He's racist, and you know, it makes it hard when I have these two narratives constantly coming against me, and I'm a part of both communities. It makes it real hard for me to fully embrace who I am. And then I also want to point this out within the LGBTQ plus community. When non-black gay people say, you know, they have a strong, or they have a black woman inside of them, you know, cringy. It's absolutely disgusting, and it needs to stop today. Okay, like that is just unacceptable on all levels. And then also, at the end of the day, how can you also say comments about that, and you're not out here advocating for black women in the black community during times like this? It makes absolutely no sense to me, and goes to show how others will use our vernacular and styles and etc., but still won't care about us. But I digress. So last thing I will say is that find individuals that inspire you to be you. It helps. So black LGBTQ plus people need, or I don't want to say need, but it'd be nice to have people like, you know, Frank Ocean to look up to. You know, his coming out story inspired me, and I'm sure it inspired a lot of other people. And he's just, you know, one of the people that is continuing to be himself while still getting paid in the industry, while still getting the fame, and still conquering the goals and challenges that he has came across. You have people like Lil Nas X, broke the country music billboards, then later came out as gay. And I have to laugh because a lot of people were hating on him because they were saying that his song wasn't country enough and blase, blase. I kind of think a lot of those people were saying that because, you know, he's black. So it's the fact that he's a black country singer, you know, and he broke the billboards, and he was #1 for the longest, probably still on the billboards to this day. So people like him that's breaking barriers, very inspirational. And, you know, I look up to, I think he's younger than me, but I still look up to him because, you know, he's doing the dang thing. And you just love to see stuff like this happen. Last but not least, I'll have to shout out Young Ma. Young Ma, if y'all don't know her, she is a woman lyricist. She's a rapper, and she is openly gay. There are not a lot of people in the rap industry So you got, I posted somebody in the country, posted somebody that's really like R&B and soul. She's a rapper, and I just feel like that's just super important because we don't see a lot of representation in rap. I have to say. I think, Saucy Santana, who is a gay rapper, who's on the come up, associated with City Girls, another female artist group. He's on the come up, I have to say. But other than that, those are really the only two people that I can name on top of my head that's a part of the LGBTQ plus community. That's rapping, that's actually out here like rapping and actually like, getting to the top. Now, there may be some underground rappers, and shout out to y'all, but the mainstream people, that you maybe heard on the radio or maybe heard when you're at a club or something. I had to say Young Ma and Saucy Santana, so that's a big shout out to them. But at the end of the day, let me stop sharing. I just wanted to say that, be yourself. And it really doesn't matter who you are or what you are, because you're always going to have one person or a group of people that has a problem with you, that doesn't like you. So if you're, straight and somebody doesn't like you, or if you, gay and another person doesn't like you, well, why fake being straight, or why, fake being yourself if regardless somebody isn't going to like you? So at the end of the day, you just have to be yourself. And I'm telling you, when you're yourself all the time, you get this feeling of energy that, that you can do anything, and not that you can just do anything, but like, it just changes your way of thinking and your perspectives on a lot of things. Because I can tell you now that I was not this knowledgeable about my communities as I was in the past. But what came with that was experience, different perspectives, talking to different people, communicating with different people, going to pride parades, just interacting with different people, and then figuring out, okay, that's something I have in common with them. Now I can relate, So it's easier to understand people when you can find something to relate to as well. So that's all I had to say about my experiences, and I hope that you guys took something away from that. And at the end, we'll be doing the Q&A, so feel free to fill up that question and answer section with any questions that you may have for me. And thank y'all for listening.
Thank you, Juwan. Our next speaker was Marcus Hooks. Marcus had been in Houston since 2018, and he spent 8 years as an officer in the U.S. Army. He has an undergraduate degree in biomedical science and a veteran career delivering human resource support to our nation's troops. He also held the title for Mr. Gay Central Texas USFA 2018, with a platform focused on developing the dimensions of human interaction within the LGBTQ+ community and beyond. He currently works in the Montrose Center, whose mission is to in Houston, whose mission is to empower the LGBTQ+ community to live healthier and more fulfilling lives. But because of the kind of unforeseen circumstances in Houston, Marcus is not available to join our event today, regrettably. So we will still include his recommended materials in our resource list after the event. But right now we're going to move on to our other speaker, DeeDee Waters, who Mikey can introduce.
Well, I'm very excited to introduce our next speaker. DeeDee Waters is a transgender entrepreneur, community leader, spiritual life coach, and keynote speaker, director, and performer. She uses her lived experience, skills, and talent to not only entertain, but to educate. She's been featured on TLC's My 600-Pound Life, Vice, HBO, and Nightline, just to name a few. She's also been listed in various magazines like USA Today, The Huffington Post, The Ambassador, Outsmart, About Magazine, and many others. She's received numerous awards and has made history within the Black trans community. DeeDee is the CEO of Take My Calls, virtual assistant and answering services, and serves as Madam Chair of the Black Trans Women Incorporated Board, and sits on a host of other boards that are in line with her vision of building community, presenting the option of healing, trans inclusion, and equal rights for all. DeeDee, we're honored to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here. Can you all hear me? Just wanted to make sure. So yeah, I'm super excited about being here myself. Thank you so very much for having me. Whenever I first heard you reading the bio, I wasn't paying any attention. And I said to myself, oh, wait a minute, this person sounds like really cool and amazing. But then I found out it was me. So, you know, I'm with it. Why not? So thank you for that. One of the things that I wanted to start off with was to Juwan. I don't know if I said your name correctly, and if I mispronounced it, I apologize. But I would like to tell you thank you. Thank you because on today you gave me and you showed me some Black boy joy. And I really, really wanted to let you know that I really, really appreciated that. I thought that that was just absolutely amazing. Pride is definitely a place that you all would want to go. Also, Juwan, I wanted to just shout you out for the fact of you having slides. You know, unfortunately, you all got me on today. So since you got me, you don't get slides. So I had slid my cocktail over, but I'm not doing that on today. But unfortunately, you don't get slides. But what you do get is you do get encouragement. And what I would like to let you know is that the reason why I'm not providing slides is because I feel that if you are stepping into allyship, or you stepping past that line of allyship, which leaves you still in a safe zone, then you can do your own research, honey. And I do understand and know that slides are very important. But for me, baby, I'm a Black trans woman, and I'm here today to be able to give you some of my lived experience. And hopefully by giving you that and some additional information, it inspires you to be able to do what is right for people, right? Because I'm still people. So as in many cases, we say things like Black Lives Matter and my life should matter because I am Black. So that should also be inclusive of Black trans people just as well. And that's pretty much where I'm going to be coming from on today. Also to Juwan, so I love Pride. I'm in it every year. Houston we've already done our Pride celebration. I was one of the keynote speakers there as well. And we just had a virtual one. So, you know, but I got you for next year. If you're interested in going next year, please reach out. I got you. We could do the thing. You look like you were really excited.
Absolutely.
At any rate, thank you. At any rate, one of the things that I want to do first and foremost is, again, I give appreciation for the introduction, but I would like to do it a little differently for myself. So to everyone who is watching, my name is DeeDee Waters. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. The reason why I'm doing that is because it's extremely important, especially for someone like myself who grew up and transitioned at such an early age. I started my transition at such an early age. And within that, we didn't have this thing called pronouns. Well, we did, but we didn't use that type of language at that time. And for me, my transition started nearly 2 decades ago, even though I'm only 21. So for those of you that can count, yes, I'm one, so no shade, because I know Juwan counted. He looked like he counted. So at any rate, within that, it's really important that we say these types of things and that we ask those types of questions and that we acknowledge what pronouns are. So first and foremost, before I go into anything, if I can encourage you or educate you on anything, it's about being able to utilize pronouns. And pronouns are extremely important, especially in this industry, especially in this time of day, whenever you have people that are identifying differently. And you just want to respect folks. So if you want to respect people, then one of the most important things to do is to know about pronouns. So when it comes down to pronouns, what I'm going to do is give you all an example. I'm going to also kind of tell you a little bit about pronouns. So generally within pronouns, there are pronouns that are most commonly used, right? And those pronouns generally are within the binary, right? But then you also have pronouns that are not in the binary that are also used as well. So on today, I'm going to speak about I'm going to say the sets, the 3 sets that are usually used the most or more commonly, at least here down south. So that would be he, him, and his. That would also be she, her, and hers. And that would also be they, them, and theirs. Now, there are other pronouns that people go by. Again, like I said, I didn't provide you all any slides because if you're that interested in it, you definitely can do the research yourself. Not only that, but it can also make it better for you because then you'll be putting in the effort, which would actually show that you cared enough to, you know, want to do something, right? And stand for something that's right. So generally for me, a lot of times I always come up and I always speak to people. And when I speak to people, I tell them my pronouns. Quite often people are like, why are you telling me your pronouns? I can clearly see that I should be saying she and her to you. But that's not the case all the time. Generally for me, it becomes a way of life. Like every time I'm doing something, that's one of the things that I want to do. I want to always start off with pronouns. I want to make sure that even if I'm making people uncomfortable, that it's okay. Because for many years in the beginning of my transition, it was very uncomfortable for me to be inside of a room or in a space that should have been seen as a safe space, a space that should have been deemed as a safe space. And as Juwan talked about a little earlier, whenever it comes down to the Black community as well as members in the LGBTQI plus communities, even some of the T, there is a lot of things that go on that happen that include transphobia, right? And when these things happen, pronouns are something that generally aren't respected, you know, and even in these spaces where you thought that you should be safe, using the wrong pronouns, it doesn't matter what your intentions are. If you're using the wrong pronouns, you're wrong. And that's just what it is. So again, the way that I generally do it is that for me, if I walk up to someone, I do just like I did whenever I introduce myself. I let them know that my name is DeeDee Waters. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And the reason why I go by she, her, and her pronouns is because I identify as a Black transgender woman or as a Black woman of the trans experience. And with that in mind, it's just, you know, those are my pronouns. So for a person who identifies as male and that identifies as male would go with he, him, and his. And sometimes you have people that also use he, him, and they, them, or she, her, and they, them. You have some people that use they, them, and she, her, and vice versa. With pronouns, it's whatever you feel, baby. And I encourage you to look at it the way that I look at things. I look at it from the perspective of, in reality, it really doesn't matter. If you tell me that you want to be he today and she tomorrow, why does it really matter to me? You know, the only thing I can ask, respectably, is that if that's what you're doing, that you let me know. So a lot of times I walk up to people and when they use multiple pronouns, I'll be like, so what are we going with today? And they're like, what you mean what we going with? Well, what you going with today? Because you told me I can use he, she, they, them. So I want to know which one we're going with so that way I can respect you, because respect is important. That also leads me to want to talk about cisgender and transgender. So when we talk about these two separate things, right, it's really important because when we talk about cisgender, you know what, let me back up. Let me give an example. So talking to a friend, right, talking to a girlfriend and in conversation, and we're having great conversation just going on. And she says, well, you know, because of me being a woman, I know you probably wouldn't understand that because, you know, we real women. The problem there is that what makes you all real women. And when we say things like real women, it tears people down. So it's kind of for people that are Black, I want you to look at it with the mindset of being too light-skinned to be Black. For people that are persons of color, look at it from the perspective of people saying that you think that you're too upper class or too better than your people. And to people that are white, look at it from the perspective of being lower than, right? Or less than, right? So just looking at it from different perspectives. And when we do that, we're hurting people, like that we're hurting people. And so my encouragement to you is to be able to identify these things. And sometimes whenever you see people, sometimes they may not look exactly like what you think, or you may have the question. And one of the things that I always tell people is that if you ever see a person and you have to question whether or not you should say he and or she to them, one of the things that you can do is very simple. Go up and introduce yourself. Hello, my name is DeeDee Waters. And I like the way my name sounds. So I love saying my first and my last name. Ain't nothing like DeeDee Waters. So my name is DeeDee Waters. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And you would be. And a lot of times that prompts a person who does know their pronouns, who does go by certain pronouns or different pronouns of what you see or think, it does give them the chance to be able to then inform you of what their pronouns are as well. And it just makes things a whole lot more comfortable. It makes it a lot easier, just so that way there's no confusion, right? And whenever you hear people having conversations, and a lot of times I always encourage people that be mindful whenever you're getting ready to correct someone or address someone for disrespecting someone, that sometimes it may not be the space that's safest for you just as well. So sometimes it's even easy whenever you see a trans woman come in and, you know, you can clearly see that it's a trans woman. And within seeing that it's a trans woman, you hear people saying he. And this person is clearly uncomfortable now, and you just go in and insert yourself by saying she or her. A lot of times that helps people because they then see that you're doing it. Now, ignorance is bliss. So from time to time, you'll wind up running into people that will try to correct you whenever you address that. And then that's when you can either take it into your own hands by, you know, pulling them to the side and having that conversation, or not, solely up to you. But when you do that, you then ask yourself, are you an ally? Are you a comrade? Or are you just a person who decided to show up and say that you were an ally or a friend of the community, and your friendship really isn't even, you know, going to be appreciated because you didn't stand up or step up for me in any type of a way, or the community. So those few things, again, talking about pronouns, talking about what it means to be cisgender. I'm not going to go into things like being non-binary and all of that. I think that that's really, really important. I think that those of you that would like to know more about that, you should definitely go and look it up. And the reason why I'm not going to go into that is because I'm not a person who's non-binary. Although I'm educated on it, I went and I learned. You can too. I believe in you. Trust me, I do. So at any rate, I want to kind of give you all a little bit of my story because I have just a little bit more time. So my story started with me transitioning, well, starting. So I started playing in women's clothing and putting on hair and doing different types of things, probably around about the age of 13, 14 years old. When I was about 15, right before my 15th birthday, I wound up catching West Nile. West Nile put me in a wheelchair. I was in a hospital for like 3 months. Like it was crazy. And that experience, right? So that experience of being in that hospital all that time, each and every day, my mom was there with me. My mother was my best friend. My mom lost jobs. My mom had my little sister as well as my little brother. And my little brother was like a baby. She had like just had him. And yeah, she showed up at the hospital each and every day, lost jobs. I mean, I even had I had a Savannah monitor when I wound up catching West Nile, and my mother had to go and buy mice for the lizard. And she did that riding on the bus. My mother did that riding on the bus with 2 children, one in a stroller and the other in her arm. And she did that. And so, or in her hand just as well. And she did that riding on the bus. And the reason why this is important is because I want for you all to like know that my mother and I, we had an amazing relationship. My mother was my best friend. She was my protector, my provider. She was my definition of love, right? And she was there the entire time. You know, when I came out of the hospital and I finally got out of the wheelchair and I was able to start back walking, I decided that it was time to go back into, you know, doing this thing about like, you know, being a girl and what would that be like? And so I was around about 16 years old when I got out of the wheelchair and started being able to walk again. And it's amazing because each and every time I think about this, I really think about my mother and I miss my mother. But I remember coming home and I mean, as soon as I put the key inside of the lock, the door flung open and my mother was standing there and she had on this t-shirt and the t-shirt had Snoopy on it. And Snoopy was laying on top of a doghouse with a rainbow going over him. And it was a pink shirt and it was my shirt. And my mom goes, "Do you like my shirt?" And I was like, you know, like, oh my goodness, like, what am I supposed to say? Like, yes, Mom, I like it. And I went to my room. Not to go too far in details because I don't want to relive the trauma for myself because things are different now that my mother is passed on and it just feels different. You know what I'm saying? So at that moment, my mother then, she went in the room and she started throwing my things out and I was put out. When I was put out, it hurt. And a lot of people don't understand that whenever we talk about the violence that happens amongst Black trans women, that a lot of times this is something that is also things that happen within our culture. And what we don't understand and what we don't get is that this stuff is going on and it's been going on. And the saddest part of it all is for us to not know, right? And especially in this day and age, when you have so much going on through media, through technology, all this stuff, recording, all of these different types of things, to be able to access this information and to see these things, that it really does happen. It amuses me that I have friends who said that they didn't think that Black men were being murdered by the police. That police brutality didn't happen, and it happens. It definitely happens. And so that bothered me. At any rate, with that in mind, the violence against trans people, it happens. And sometimes we become vulnerable because of our situations. So now I'm homeless, right? My mother has put me out. My mother, my best friend, my mother. My father has nothing to do with me. My father, like, these are the people that, you know, and brought me together, like brought me here. And to see this, to feel this, to know this, to experience this, was a hurt that was like no other. You know, I was homeless for a while, and while I was homeless, I didn't know what to do. I would go through the drive-thrus and pick up the change that people threw out because I didn't know how to ask for money. I grew up in the church, so I went back to the church and I tried to get help there because, you know, the church, of course, the doors are always open. But just imagine when you go to a place where you felt like you could be safe and those doors that are always open. The Bible said that the doors of the church were always open and all this other kind of stuff about the doors of the church, and those doors are slammed shut right in your face. You see, there's a hurt that comes inside that many of us don't even acknowledge, right? And we don't even understand the intersections that happen, right? So just as me being a Black woman of trans experience, think about your experience and think about how it is for you and what your life was like with church. Think about what it was like with parents. Think about what it was like with loved ones, family, and friends. For whenever they turned their backs on you, or whenever you felt like you needed someone and couldn't turn to them. Like, these are experiences of which I've experienced. These are things and hurt of which I've experienced. You know, sometimes we turn to religion or we turn to family, and we wind up realizing that the only thing that we can really turn to is self. And within that, it leads to the next part that I wanted to talk about. At the present moment, we're currently at 27 murders. 27 murders of trans people, right? And these people include trans masculine folks, trans feminine folks, and folks that are just not even in the binary. And to know that we're not even like through with the year yet. And we've already surpassed one of our highest numbers. And this is just numbers that are in the United States of America. And not only that, but these are the ones that we were able to actually catch and track. And when we look at what that looks like and what that seems like, it's the reality, right? So just like I said earlier, that Black men were being murdered by police officers in acts of police brutality, and people acted like they never knew. And for years, for decades, Black people have been screaming this. And the saddest part is that people really thought that this was fake, that it wasn't a real thing, that it wasn't something that happened. And then now that you can see it on social media and on television or through a text message, it becomes real to you. See, the reality is that these are things that are real to me. And just the same way that they cover up all of these different things is the same way that they cover up trans people who have been murdered. See, instead of them being mindful of the fact that the person who may have been sitting on their porch that seen this trans person, who knew that this was a trans person, seeing someone that was with this trans person as they walked down their street. See, this person could have witnessed who murdered this person, right? This trans woman, right, for example. And instead, the media, right, the police, they're going down there saying that a man was found dead in this area. Did you see anything? Do you know anything? That is a problem. Because a man that you're saying was found dead, in the mind of the people, they're going to think a man. They're not going to think a trans person. They're not going to think a woman. They're not going to think something feminine. Even if they knew that that trans person was trans, they're not going to think that that was the man that got murdered. I think that it is extremely important that we're mindful of these types of things. I think that it's important that whenever we look at the way that media handles things, that the more that we're silent, the louder that they will be. I think that it's important for us to also acknowledge the fact that whenever it comes down to things like the things that happen like right in front of us or around us, you know, I wanted to save something for later, but I want to go ahead and bring it up now. And I want to talk about the way that things happen, even within like hospitals and in medicine and the way that these things go, right? To sit here and to know that whenever people go inside of the hospital, that is a place where they should be provided treatment and care. To know that people do things that just tear them down and disrespect us. I've been inside of the hospital myself and have been disrespected, even after I've addressed the situation. And I've watched nurses who were very nice and genuine and sweet to me just stand there. What we forget is that whenever we go to places, and it's places that we turn to for care and for treatment, whenever those places are no longer as safe as they were at one point in time, we a lot of times don't want to go back. And for me, as a Black woman of the trans experience, or even as a Black trans woman, I have to acknowledge the fact that whenever I went to the hospital the first time as a Black trans woman or a Black woman of trans experience, and they disrespected me, they misgendered me, they utilized the wrong pronouns. So that's what's misgendering, right? I never wanted to go back. And see, what a lot of people don't understand is that me growing up Black, my growing up Black, I can't speak for everyone else's growing up Black, but my growing up Black, I didn't really go to the doctor like that. You know, we went through the emergency room. And it's not that my mama didn't know any better or anything like that. It was just, what could we afford whenever those times and those options were there, right? And not only that, but just being mindful that any time that you go to a safe place that no longer feels safe or is said to be safe, and it really isn't, who would want to show back up there? Would you want to show back up there? So just being mindful that for me, as a Black trans woman, that I exist and that things happen and that they'll happen right in front of you. And now I'm not saying to go and grab your armor or your shield or, you know, put on a cape or tat an S across your chest as if you're a Superman and or Superwoman or a super individual, because I want to make sure I remember the people that's not in the binary. But I am saying that it is okay to say something, even if it's a simple email. Right now, at the present time in Texas, as a whole, trans people do not have any legal protections, any protections that protect us. Now, in places like Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, El Paso, I think I'm missing one, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, El Paso, they each have protections for trans people. Houston does not. Houston didn't even, we don't even have the Houston Equal Rights Ordinance, which was something that included trans people. But we do have this thing that's called the James Byrd Hate Crime Bill. It's a Hate Crime Prevention Act and bill. And that is something that's there. The downer is that it doesn't include trans people. So if you remember Malaysia Booker, who was assaulted and beaten by a mob of people, right? If you remember Malaysia Booker down in Dallas last year, oh, wait a minute. Malaysia Booker, her obituary, shout out Malaysia. Love you, Malaysia. May you rest easy. But Malaysia Booker was jumped by all of those men, and that was not a hate crime that was charged against them. Many of them, really all of them, got off with it. The one who they actually put charges on really just got a slap on the hand. It could have been you. Could have been me. We deserve equal rights. We deserve protections, just as well as you. And understand something, to Black cis women, this is something that I definitely want to say to you. I would like for you to understand something, that if you ever have a question or a doubt of us being equal in any type of a way, or you being greater than, or me being less than, or even the same thing for Black trans people, Black trans women specifically, thinking that you may have something over these cisgender women. I want to remind all of us, cisgender and or trans, that are Black women. As a matter of fact, if you are Black and you are living in a feminine perspective or presenting anything femme, the same thing, the same men, the same race of men that will murder me could possibly murder someone just like you. We've learned that a lot of times, that even in certain studies, that over 92% of the murders of which happen with Black femme bodies, 92%, almost 92% are interracial, which means it's done by somebody else who's Black. And a lot of times it's done by people who we love, like people who we're with, like domestic violence. So I encourage you all that if you're in Houston, or if you're ever passing through Houston, that you go and you pass by the billboard that reads "Protect Black Trans Women." It's over off of I-10 and Griggs. You can Google it, but it's there. And I hope that you keep that in mind and that you think about it. And don't think about just the fact of protecting Black trans women. Think about the mere fact that we as a Black community had to start screaming that Black lives matter for our lives to even come up to somewhat matter. And people had to put up a billboard that said, "Protect Black trans women." Food for thought. Again, my name is DeeDee Waters. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I thank you all so very much. And I hope that you all join us later so that way you can be a part of the discussion and you can ask as many questions as you like. Thank you so much.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Mrs. DeeDee. And yes, you can definitely mark me down for anything prior related. If you need me to talk, you need me to dance, I got you. So definitely want to get in contact with you for that, because that's going to be popping for sure.
I want you to just party. That's what I want to do. I want to party and have a good time. My goal is to make...
Okay, to bed. I'm down for that.
Remember something. So the thing that's important is this, that even whenever our culture told us that this was something that was wrong, right? And religion also said that this was something that was wrong, right? But the way that we live in, right? And like that Black boy Joy that you got over there, this Black girl Magic that's over here, this is something that's worth it. You know what I'm saying? So we should get out there. Like we can speak at another time. I want to get out there and I want to be ratchet. I'm just going to be honest and have a great time. Okay? I'll be professional when I get home, but at the parade, I just want to have a good time, and I hope that you'll do that, and I hope that some of you all will join us as well.
I know that's right. Yeah, I got some friends texting me. Oh yeah, I'm down to go to Pride. So those friends, I'm be hitting y'all up now. But thank you so much for giving us such a great insight and perspective on, your life story and everything you had to say. I really was feeling every single thing, even though, I have not lived the life that you lived, but I took everything you said to heart. So thank you so much for saying all that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So now it's about to be time for our question and answer part of the series. As a reminder, please send your questions using the Q&A section for the chat. And also be sure to follow us on social media and feel free to use the hashtag anti-racism series when tweeting about us and this event. And I'm pretty sure somebody will post the link of our social medias in the chat. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to start. We've got a question that applies for both of y'all. So let me just pull that up. What major obstacles did you have to overcome relating to your sexuality and how others view you?
Oh wait, is it on me first?
Oh, it don't matter. Go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
Look, so I look up, all I see is me on the screen. I'm like, wait a minute, is it on me? Okay. So sexuality, right? So when it comes down to sexuality, so by me being transgender, right? Identifying as transgender doesn't mean that anything about sexuality changed for me, right? It means that my gender identity I did not identify with or present as at birth, right? And so like what was assigned at birth is not what I go by, right? And so so for me, to be honest with you, honey, I'm just a flip of a coin, honey. I can't say that I'm bisexual because I feel like it's just that's something I don't even it's complicated for me. I don't know about pansexual and all this other kind of stuff. I'm just, hey, if it floats the boat, honey, I'm gonna be on it, okay? And as far as like okay, so you the baby forget the other question. Your turn.
Oh, my turn. Okay, sorry. Yes. So I mean, I'm sorry, Mikey. What was the question?
See.
Sorry, let me pull it up. What major obstacles did you have to overcome relating to your sexuality and how others view you?
Yeah, so definitely, I say one of the biggest obstacles will be the situation I had with my pops. Just that, you know, not being ready to tell him, and then us just having that big argument. A lot of words were said. However, you know, he's my best friend. You know, now we grown from that. But I also have to say I had a lot of obstacles with some of my close friends too, because you got to think that, you know, I came out about, you know, sophomore year of high school. So, you know, high schoolers can be real mean and real rude. You know, we all been there before. So some of my closest friends, you know, actually ended up being an enemy and, you know, being one of the main people that was talking stuff about me, you know. And one thing I had to do was just cut them off and keep it moving, because it don't matter if I got one real friend or three. I'd rather have one or three real friends than have 20 fake ones. So that was a real obstacle that I had to go over. But, you know, to this day, I'm standing tall and, you know, still see Black Boy Joy and still got my squad of friends and support system. So.
All right, we've got another question for both of y'all. Does allyship look different within communities of color for LGBTQ plus people of color? If so, can you explain?
There's this part of me. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, allyship. I mean, in communities of color, I'll say that the communities of color, the people that are allies that I have seen are, I don't want to, you know, kind of say bigger or smaller, but I will. They're kind of bigger allies than people I don't see in like non-colored people. However, from my own experiences too, you know, there can be a lot of people that are, you know, against you and just won't say anything. And then there could be people that's against me and, you know, will give a whole, you know, thing about a whole thesis paper about why I'm wrong and why I'm going to hell and you know. And at the same time, I experience that across all the board, you know, whether it's communities of color or whether it's, you know, white people, Hispanic people, it doesn't matter. When I go to Pride parades, you know, and I see people holding up signs, I see everybody of, you know, of every color going against me, even my own people, you know, that's Black people, you know, going against me. So I kind of don't look at it as kind of like, you know, what's going on with communities of color. I just kind of look at it as a whole, like, okay, listen, am I affecting your paper chase or you doing your job or anything like that? If so, why are you worried about me and who I'm with? You know, so I don't think that I don't think I can really narrow it down to, you know, communities of color being kind of better or worse than I think about it. But I will say that when I do see the communities of color that are supportive, they are supportive and loud about it. Because, so like I said, some people will just sit there and not say nothing, but those people are loud about it. And those are the same people I take with me to Pride. Okay, so that's what I have to say about that.
So my response to that would be, I guess a little different, but I do also agree. I think that, so one, I kind of remember the question and I kind of don't, but I know what I want to say anyway around it, right? And I think that when we talk about these types of things, right? So first and foremost, I mean, no harm towards anyone. You can identify however, whatever you want, however race you want, any of those types of things. I identify as a Black, as Black, okay? I identify as Black. I don't identify as African American. I don't identify as a person of color. So for me, because of what's going on and what is taking place right at this moment, the way that Black bodies are being laid on pavement, is a problem for me. So when we talk about people of color, I want to step aside from that for just a second. I'm gonna come back to them as people of color for allies, right? And then I'm gonna be over here. So as Black people, especially those that are members of the LGBTQIA+ community, right? And even those that are not, how dare you still sit here and be concerned about allyship when you should be stepping up to camaraderie? You should be my comrade. You should be acknowledging the fact that the same bullet that will go through me will go through either your child, your grandchild, or your child's child. Do you hear me? Now, understanding that when we are saying these types of things, that allyship Allyship is what white people are supposed to do for us at this present moment. They can be our allies. We can demand for them to step up to be our comrades and to fight this battle with us. But see, when we're talking about things that are happening to Black bodies, we need to make sure that Black people understand that we have to step up and stand for all of each other. If you could stand up for old dude that broke an old girl house and got jumped on by the police, you could stand up for me who got jumped on by these dudes just because I simply existed. So when we talk about this type of stuff, we have to start forcing ourselves and acknowledging the truth. Because if they can murder me, if a Black man can murder me, he will murder a Black cis woman, and the same thing, the same injustice will happen. Hello, you know? And so like these are problems and we have to step up. Now, when we come back over to the rest of the people of color, I think that it is a sad shame that I watch people of color and white people stand up and go to war for Black people like me. I think that it is amazing. I think that whenever we talk about allyship in that type of a way, it comes from a whole nother place. And I think that even whenever we do that, I think that we should look at something. I think that we should even look at the bigger picture. How about the bigger picture for those of us that are trying to figure out how to move past this? I think that the bigger picture is looking at it to sit there and say, wow, people that aren't even in the same race, they don't even look alike. They're standing up and fighting more than the people that are looking like them that have some of the same experiences. So I think that when we look at that and we understand that there's an issue that's going on in Black culture that we really need to address, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I know that I went on, but I'm just saying that when we talk about allyship, I do think that that there's this time where we have to start looking at who we are individually, whether or not you're a person of color, Black, wherever you may be in life. And if you're saying that you are an ally, are you okay with being an ally? Are you fine with what your allyship looks like? Or do you feel like, hey, if I was in a situation and somebody told me that there was an ally and I did what they did, I would be like, no, that's not working for me, then you need to work on that.
All right, so our next question is for Juwan. How do you feel about your experience as an LGBTQ+ scientist so far? Also, what do you feel is more effective for other scientists to understand or do to be more supportive and inclusive of their peers?
Wow, whew, that's a question, all right. So I have to say that ever since I got here, me and my friend Andy, shout out to Andy, I hope you're still in here, have been fighting to make our application more inclusive. The fact that our application just has male and female is honestly ridiculous. And we have been trying to change that ever since they asked us, oh, what can we do better? So I really do think that the community that I'm in as far as BCM could be more inclusive, especially with the graduate school, because I do know that the med school students actually do have a very inclusive application that has the whole, shebang. And all I was asking for, just have a third option, don't match male or female. I want to specify what I am, As far as being a scientist, I have to say I am myself 100% of the time, just like how I was telling my story. So, sometimes I can be a little loud, sometimes I can be a little, but at the end of the day, I have been respected. I have to say I've been respected by most of my peers. And I will also say that it also opens up conversations because I am a very approachable dude. And I'm also friendly. So, I have friends who have people that are not so educated about the LGBTQ+ community. And, if you my homie, if you my friend, I don't mind educating you because I don't want you out here making me look like a fool anyway. So, if you have a serious question to ask me, you're going to be afraid to ask another LGBTQ+ individual because you don't know a lot, then, oh yeah, I'm gonna answer your question, So I do think that me being, bisexual and being a Black scientist, it opens up a lot of seats at the table for discussion. And that's what I'm initially trying to start during it's my second year now, but I'm gonna want to have these open discussions because that way it can lead to a more inclusive application. It can lead to us being more comfortable in an environment that we're in because, bringing in people of a different diverse background is different than having them feel comfortable once they're already there, right? Mm-hmm. So this is just the first step. The application is the first step, but I expect to, work with my community and work with my peers to do a lot more with BCM and the Houston-wide area as a whole. Like what Sister DeeDee was saying about Houston not protecting, that's just so weird to me because Houston was one of the main, like I chose Houston because I feel so comfortable being here. Like I see a lot of Black people, I see a lot of brown people, but most importantly, I see a lot of Black LGBTQ plus people. So I would think that they would have, the certain regulations that protect, anybody that's on the spectrum. So I was actually, I was like, wow.
It just don't include the T. See,
right.
that's the reality.
And
that's the reality.
So they don't think, because I said the full spectrum, and that's messed up. It's either full or nothing. Because as I say, like if they're only asking for certain things, they're asking for privilege. They're not asking for equality, they're asking for privilege if you don't want it for everybody else. Right? So that's why we say things like all Black lives matter. Because some people tend to forget, she's transgender, she's also Black. Her life matters, it's like you just can't single people out. It's not how it works like that. And I don't think that I'm singled out within my community. I just think that I have that platform to actually start these conversations that need to be started. Because I don't think that, there's somebody that's, that's been like me before me. At least, there's nobody going to be like Juwan, but I mean like, like me. So I'll be more than happy to be the first one at that seat or first one at that table starting the conversations. And I hope to do that.
That actually transitions to our next question in terms of talking about education and discrimination. LGBTQ plus individuals experience a number of health disparities, and DeeDee mentioned specifically how there's reluctance to receive healthcare because of discrimination. Do you feel that there needs to be coursework incorporated to the training of science and health-related curriculum?
You want to go first? Absolutely.
I was just going to say, that ain't no question for me. That's for you, scientists. Okay.
Absolutely. I personally feel like, it doesn't matter if you're a scientist, a business person, a medical professional, you need to be educated, right? Because if you're a business person, well, they're going to be part of your business, right? They're going to be some of your customers. If you're a healthcare professional, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be taking care of a patient, that's in the LGBTQ plus community. So I would think that people would need to be, because this goes back to people like the medical system being educated about Black folks, and how they look at us as being stronger. So, they don't really listen to us because they're like, oh, we're so strong and da-da-da. No, if we need some Tylenol, that's strong, whatever, we saying something hurting, you need to give it to us, right? So what I would say is they need to start listening, right? I also think that that they can start showing their support. This is just one small thing, right? This is a small thing, but just by wearing their pronouns. I know a lot of medical professionals that have a button, he, him, his, she, her, that can go a long way in your email signature. I have my pronouns, and when I see people that have their pronouns, I'm like, they get it, So that could go a long way as well. But absolutely, yes, people need to be more educated because there are more disparities going on within the LGBTQ plus community. And in order for us to correct that, it starts with educating the people directly involved. And from that, hopefully we could build a greater healthcare system, a greater research opportunities, so on and so forth. But it all starts with them actually becoming educated of what's going on. Like, there should be no reason how, DeeDee goes to the doctor and they're looking at her funny because she's transgender. They should know, okay, she's transgender, so we should take this, and this into account, right? Period. So that way she's getting better treatment and especially if we're paying for it, honey. Like, bottom line, it needs to be better treatment, better service, and it starts with them learning more and doing what DeeDee said, pick up a book or going, Google's free, using Google and finding that information. But I do think that it does need to be taught in the classroom as well.
I agree. I also think that, I think that, and I know that this was your question. I had put this question on you so you can answer first. But I feel like when we talk about, so understand something. So for me, I've been transitioning for nearly 2 decades. And I feel like people take transitioning to a whole nother level. And I feel like whenever it comes down to it, so yes, in medical and science, I think that those things, education should go farther, right? But I think that education is something that is used to be able to be like this barrier, right? That's kind of like, oh, I'm not educated. What do you need to know, baby? Like, how much stuff do you need to know? Like, that bothers me because, like, for you to say that you are a bisexual man, right? I can respect that. You want me to be real honest with you? I don't care because you're not my man. But I'm going
Right.
to respect what you say that you are because that's what you're doing. And even if
Exactly.
I'm not doing it, like, I don't need to know what it is. All I need to know is, okay, so bisexual means this and this. Oh, okay. So I don't need to know, oh, so how do you do what in bed? How do you do this? When you do this, like, there's no need in that. And that's what people are trying to utilize is education. It bothers me whenever people come up to me and say, oh, I want to be better educated. So have you had the surgery? That does not educate you. That tells you about me and my genitalia. That's what that does. And so that is a problem. And the only thing that I have, like, I definitely believe that education is extremely important. But I just always feel like when we sit there and we talk about education, it's one of the things that people try to use a lot to try to downplay their fill in the blank.
That's real.
Okay, and so the next, thank you for answering, guys. The next question is for DeeDee. It says, some Black cis women who are rightfully tired from their oppression and continuous activism have unfortunately wrongfully begun to gatekeep womanhood in ways, i.e. trying to make spaces for biological Black women only, which is problematic on so many levels. Do you think other Black cis women should take accountability and work to teach these people? Do you think trying to convince those type of people is a waste?
Ooh, so whoever you are that asked that question, I want to first and foremost say thank you for coming in and asking the question, for reading the question, right? And so to the person who actually typed that question in, I want to appreciate the fact of you utilizing cis women and not downgrading me. And if they didn't use cis women, I want to say thank you to the person who read the question for, you know, doing what you were supposed to do, baby. That's how we do it. So now, oh, well, thank you. See, that's what I'm talking about. So first and foremost, right, as a Black woman, as just a Black woman, whether or not it's cis and or trans, being Black, we've experienced trauma that was passed down to us, right? And trauma that just came with it. So just like us sitting down watching stuff happen on TV, it touches us and we don't even know these people and it touches us. It makes us feel something. We make a connection with them and we acknowledge that, right? I think that when it comes down to doing this and doing this accountability type of work, I think that sometimes that we have to be mindful that it is okay for people to create spaces that they quote unquote feel are specifically for them. Because just like you believe that I should also be included in that conversation, which would be a better conversation, right? Because everyone will be included, right? But if they feel like they want to have that conversation over there, what I would like to say is, as I said earlier, you must ask yourself the question is, are you able to do that? See, we don't acknowledge the amount of trauma that we had. See, I ask Black people all day, every day, how you doing? They be like, oh, I'm fine. How your year been? Oh, my year been blessed and how you a lie. We going through COVID-19, people dying, you know, the president's stupid, half this other stuff is stupid, and you sitting there, people, Black people getting shot right in front of you on TV, on your phone, on the red, like this is everywhere, and you fine. And so what I'm saying is this, to Black cis women, and even to Black trans women, you have to be aware of whether or not you're able to have that type of conversation. And if you're not able to have that type of conversation, that is absolutely okay, because guess what you do? You just create another space and invite the people that are willing to have that conversation into that space. And understand it doesn't always have to be an argument. You don't always have to be going back and forth debating with people or any of that. If that conversation is going to be too much for you, I mean, right now we're going through a pandemic. Really? So, like, you know, if that conversation is too much for you, then you create a space where those conversations can be had, and they can be had in safe space, or at least as best as you could possibly do.
All right, so our next question for both of you is, what is some advice you would tell family members who are having a hard time accepting their child's identity?
I would tell family members that are having a problem with accepting their child. So that means that that's their parents accepting their children, right? Or are you just saying, okay. So to parents accepting their children, let me see something. This is an obituary for Malaysia Booker. Malaysia Booker was beaten and she was murdered. Over on my altar, there are other pictures of trans people that were murdered. Each and every day, this is something that happens. And if you're going to allow this, the fact of them being just a little different, the fact of them being something that everybody is not seeing as the same, which because if you, whoever you are, somebody that's seeing you different too. If you're going to allow that to happen, I want you to be mindful that this right here is a guarantee. See, Malaysia was murdered, but see, the thing that's the guarantee is death. It's death. It's death. And if you can live with that, then you should do exactly what it is that you feel. Because the guarantee that we all have is that in this life, we will have death, and we never know when that comes. And even if we get a little clue in advance of when it's coming, it still will come. So you should ask yourself before you sit here and want to go off this cliff about all this other stuff. Ain't nobody say nothing about you got to like it and all that other kind of stuff. Ain't nobody said that you got to be with it. You ain't got to show up. You ain't got to even support it. But just be mindful that we all guaranteed death. And the one thing that you would probably not want to do is die without your child being around, or vice versa.
Yeah, she hit it right on the nail. And just that obituary just makes me teary-eyed. You know, death, we all going to experience death, you know, and I just feel like, you know, families should have unconditional love, especially to this kind of aspect. And also especially because their child is still going to be who they want to be, right? When they're grown, they're paying their own bills, got their own checks coming, okay? It doesn't matter. It's not going to matter at that point, okay? I mean, yeah, it's still going to hurt them inside, you know, not having that relationship. However, they're still going to get their bread. They're still going to be who they want to be, right? So why not be that, you know, supportive person that they need? Because we all, no matter who you are, we all need that supportive person or supportive group of people, right? To get us through the hard times. So why not be one of those, you know, people? You know, you may not like it, but at least respect it. You know, do you love your child or not? Like, it's not like, what else do you want from them? You know? And I think that that's exactly how my dad came around. You know, he realized that Juwan ain't gonna change. He gonna keep doing him. You know, so I might as well support him rather than being one of the main people tearing him down. So I definitely agree with everything what DeeDee just said, and I think that the family members need to start reconsidering how they're treating their loved ones that's a part of the community. Because at the end of the day, we're all going to experience death. And do you really want to have the regrets of, you know, maybe, you know, our parents are supposed to die before us, but that's not always the case, you know, but do you want to have that, you know, the regret of your child dying and, you know, now you're saying, oh, I wish I did this, I wish I did that. Well, do it now while they're alive, okay? That would be my advice.
Thank you. This next question is for Juwan. It says, within our communities, we often try to dissociate men's queer background and their masculinity. How can we address this?
I address it all the time. But how can we address it? I don't know. It just starts like with a conversation. Like that's how stuff like this always start, because it's taboo. You know, nobody wants to talk about it, you know, because it's always, you know, seen as talked down about or whatever. So the person that starts the conversation, you know, oh, well, he must be a little fruity or whatever. I have a bunch of straight friends who are not considered, you know, the, you know, hyper masculine kind of dude, you know what I'm saying? But they are 100% comfortable in themselves, and they are also straight, you know, so that goes back to, it's a difference between gender expression or your expression of yourself and also who you're attracted to, right? You got your sexuality, you got like your gender, and you got your expression, right? 3 different things, okay? So, you know, to have this masculinity kind of complex, first of all, I think that we need to throw that away. It gets us in trouble, right? And it also gives other people that's not us the ability to believe that, oh, you know, we have stronger blood and, you know, they don't have to listen to us because we got it, even though we're saying that we're in excruciating pain, even though we have Black women, you know, losing their babies 3 to 4 times more. Hello, you know, so it goes to this, it all adds on to that. You know, when we keep having this, you know, strong masculinity complex, people should be free to express themselves as they want to be. And I know in this community, it can be hard to do that. However, I really do think that it starts with somebody having that conversation, somebody being the first one at that table saying, let's talk about it. Because otherwise it's going to still be taboo, and then otherwise we're still going to be where we was 50 years ago. So I really do think that it starts with communicating, and also it starts with relating to one another. That's what I was talking about in the beginning. Like, as soon as you can relate to one person, you know, it's like, okay, I can see where they're coming from. I can start to understand them, you know, and yeah, and then people just start to understand. But definitely think that the whole masculinity complex is trash, and that people just be who they want to be. But it all starts with actually having that conversation in our own communities.
All right, so now a question for DeeDee. In a recent video, a Black trans woman actually had to fight a Black male aggressor and luckily was able to knock him unconscious. People hailed the young woman as a superhero. I was happy she got away safely, but worried that calling her a superhero may not allow people to appreciate her humanity. She's a human that is worthy of protection, and she shouldn't have had to fight a much larger man simply because of transphobia. Is superhero harmful or important to view trans women who have overcome such obstacles?
Oh, excuse me. Okay, so let me say this. So the young lady that you're referring to, very proud of her. I'm extremely, I'm glad that she made it out alive, right? I think that when we do this and we say these types of things like superhero and we give these types of labels, it's totally fine. Like, I think sometimes it's affirming, right? This young lady went on the live and she just cried her heart out because she felt so much love, right? She felt so much love and compassion. I've been doing this for nearly 2 decades, and ever since the second that I wind up stepping onto a block, onto a whole stroll, I've been in activism, I've been in leadership. And I'm saying all that to say that you never know what people will do. You never know what people will do. And within labeling her a superhero, that's an amazing thing. I think it's phenomenal, right? But what do you think that tells to the next Black man, a Black boy, a Black waste of DNA that decides to come up to her and tries to hurt her and or harm her because he's seen her doing this fight and wanted to go up and challenge her? See, what a lot of people don't understand is that whenever you transition, things start to change. And the longer that you don't do certain things, things start to change, right? So just like with these bodies, the older we get, these bodies start to change, and sometimes we lose strength. Sometimes some of us gain it. But when we're transitioning, a lot of times that strength that comes from testosterone, if we're taking certain medicines, that testosterone is not there at the same level. Those strengths aren't there because we're no longer working out or exercising to a certain extent because we don't want certain things to happen, like broad arms or, you know. I'm saying all of that to say this. I think it's amazing for her to be called a superhero. I think it scares me because of my experience and my, just my experience, right? And being more concerned in fear for her because of it being being called a superhero, and because of the way that social media has put it out there. I think it's great. I think that people need to see this. I think that especially Black trans women need to see this. I think that Black men, cis men, need to see this. You know what I'm saying? But at the same token, it scares me because I believe that they don't understand the repercussions that can come from these types of situations. Because I can guarantee you one thing, baby, she ain't gonna remember him the way that he's gonna remember her.
Yes, a word.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is for Juwan. This person says, thanks for sharing your coming out story, Juwan. The concept of coming out seems strange when you think about it, since it shouldn't be others' concern. But unfortunately, we don't live in a society like that. Do you think that the hope would be to one day create a society where people don't have to come out?
Do I hope to create one day? I'm kind of conflicted about that because, I mean, it will be nice if people just mind their own business. But of course, you know, it's the world, it's the reality. That's not going to happen. But also, when I came out, it was so, like, it felt so good. Like, I wanted to party, you know, like I wanted to do everything that I was hiding, you know, from my friends and family. I wanted at that moment when I told my first best friend, when I told him about me, right, through Facebook Messenger, I just was like, and then he was like, okay, like, you know, you my brother. Like, I was like, dang, like, what? Like, it's just a feeling that overcame me. However, I do realize that that's not everybody's story and that's not everybody's experience. So, you know, would I give that up just for everybody to mind their business? Oh, yes, 150%. However, like I said, you know, people are not going to mind their own business. So I really don't think that we'll ever have a society like that. But I do think that we will have a society, hopefully, that will make others feel more comfortable being themselves or coming out whenever, you know, earlier or whenever they actually feel like, you know, they're ready. So that's the society I kind of hope for. Just comforting people that's, you know, ready and being more accepting of people that's ready to tell their truth.
I'm so sorry for jumping in on your question.
Go
But
ahead.
I wanted to say this. So, you know, I'm totally with you on the whole coming out part, right? So, you know, my coming out was when my mama was stomping down the hallway. So I didn't tell y'all all of that part. But baby, what she did when she had my t-shirt on, I had went in my room and she had came up in there and she had kicked the door, baby. The door flew open. Her dress was still in the air and her leg was already down. Baby, she told me to get all of my stuff, get every piece of girl clothing that I had up in there, and I can get out. I can get out. She told me to take off the clothes that she bought me because I came in this world with no clothes on. And I'm going to leave her house with none of her clothes on. And baby, my mama sat there and she threw my, baby, I remember looking down the hallway and she stormed to the door and she just threw my little red and black wig. I had a red and black wig because, you know, I was classy. And I just watched the wig fly. Now, while out there, the neighborhood, my little sister played basketball. And so like all the neighborhood boys and stuff was in the yard playing basketball with my little sister when this happens. The craziest thing is that like, for me, that was kind of like my coming out. And so, you know, whenever it was time, when I was getting thrown out, like it felt good, but it really hurted. And I think that the thing that felt good was that I could exist, but it really hurted that I kind of was like taken out of existence. I don't know if that makes sense, but I appreciate what you were saying, and it just made me think about like, not necessarily my coming out story, but that's kind of like my coming out story because like the whole neighborhood was in the front yard. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah.
So I know we're technically at the 7:30 ending for this, but and I want to be respectful of our panelists' time, but if you're willing, we have a few more questions. If you have the time, we'd love for you to be able to answer, but no pressure if you have things that you need to do.
Sure, I'm open to more questions.
I'm open to more questions, but I need to let you all know that I have a very important meeting a little later on. It's by myself and a wine glass. So we just need to make sure.
Listen,
that will not interfere with wine
self-care.
time at all. I definitely will not interfere with that. We'll try to keep it at like 5 questions or something.
You're
so
totally
it
fine.
Too rough.
You're totally fine.
I'm about to go get my wine glass now. Okay, so
thank you.
In that case, we've got another question for you, DeeDee. You are inspiringly confident. Can you speak more on building that confidence as a Black trans woman? What would you say to someone who feels they are transgender, but they're afraid of taking that next step? And what would the next step be?
Oh wow. Oh, goodness. So, okay. So, my confidence comes with experience and with the way that I was brought up. And it's not so much for me, I don't think that it's, to be honest with you and like transparent, I don't know if it's that much of confidence or if it's that much of fear. And so what I will say is that I always encourage anyone who is thinking of transitioning to do so. I encourage them to do that because one of the most important things is for you to be able to exist. And to not exist is like, I mean, what is the purpose, right? So I think that one of the most important things is to really ask yourself where you are in life and on your journey. And for some people, they're very spontaneous and they just want to jump out there and go do it. And I definitely think that that's something that is very, very possible for you to go out and do. You have people like myself and many others that are leaders and advocates and activists that will, baby, we literally hold your hand and walk you through it. But you also have people that, like myself, upon transitioning will be displaced from their home and not being able to find adequate shelter and living in a time like where we are right now. What does that look like? You know, it's not me saying don't do it. It's not me saying don't do it. It's not me saying don't do it. What it's me saying is make sure that it's what you would like to do. Not saying that you shouldn't transition, but what I'm saying is that once you transition, things are gonna change. Mama ain't gonna be the same no more. And even if mama is still loving and affirming, it's not gonna be the same. Especially if this is something that will catch people off guard. I will say this, that my experience happened a long time ago. And due to the work and all these amazing people and a lot of the people that are, you know, younger, like my age, 21, we're gonna stick with that for right now, that are really pushing and fighting for certain things to happen. And so, like, I mean, I would say that if you want to do this and you decide that this is what you would like to do now, I can definitely tell you that one of the first things that you can do is if you decide that you would like to transition from a medical perspective, then I suggest that you go ahead and you go and see the people over at Legacy. Or you can reach out to me and I can connect you to other places. You're more than welcome to reach out to me, honey. And I'd be happy to do that for you. Or if you're just a person who would like to transition, the same way in which I transitioned in the beginning, which I didn't have a care about whether or not I had breasts or not. I didn't have a care about whether or not I went and got sexual reassignment surgeries. Those were not things that were important to me. What was important to me was for me to exist. And sometimes being trans does not mean that you have to go and change all your body parts. It just means that you don't identify with the gender which was assigned at birth. And to know that, it means that the you that's looking at this right now could still be the you that's looking at this right now and identify as a person of being trans. So again, my suggestion is pretty much figure out where it is that you are. And understand that, you know, hey, if you're living with someone, things may change, you know? If you're living by yourself, if you're working at a job, things might change. You should start understanding that if you are a person who at the present time identifies as male, that if you're going to be transitioning to a female and living the life of a trans woman, that he is going to be different, that at whatever age you are, that's the age that you're starting at. So you don't get to start back at 1. Like a cisgender person would be able to, and start to learn how to do certain things. You'll start now. And there are plenty of groups for you to be able to do that. There's people that will help you through it. The main thing that I would say is don't give up on yourself, but just be mindful of yourself as well.
And I definitely want to echo Legacy. Everybody needs to be tested. It doesn't matter if you're a part of LGBTQ plus community or if you're straight. Legacy does offer free testing on certain days, and it's for the usual, like gonorrhea, chlamydia, HIV, and a couple of others. So I definitely advise people to check out Legacy no matter who you are and get that butt tested. Because no matter if you're straight, gay, whatever, you can catch whatever. So just a little plug for that, because Legacy does offer that.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I remember there was this old woman that used to know my grandmother. She said, baby, it don't matter if you're straight, gay, or around the corner, it's going to come after you. I'm telling you. And we used to be like, where'd she get this around the corner from? But that, you made me appreciate that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Ain't lying.
Thank you. So DeeDee, this question is for you as well. Kind of going along what you were just mentioning right now, this person says, I've been reading about the work of Marsha P. Johnson, and you mentioned your homelessness experience. It seems to me that homelessness is often within the trans experience. Could you talk on this and practical ways to help the homeless trans community?
Oh, wow. and practical ways to be able to help the homeless trans community, right? So, so this is something that can happen in so many ways, right? When the reason why I became homeless was because I transitioned at an age when I was still at home with my parents, and my mother put me out. I stayed homeless because there wasn't adequate shelter for me. I would go to the shelter, they would turn me away. And we fought really, really hard to be able to have shelter access now. But still, shelters are religious based, and a lot of times they still deny access to these to trans people. So with all of these different things, so I look at life like it's a toolbox, right? And inside the toolbox, you know, you got screwdrivers and all this other kind of stuff. You got 6 different types of screwdrivers, big ones, small ones, flat, Phillip, and all this other kind of stuff, right? And so I think that when it comes down to this, that we have to look at that toolbox, right? And understand that there's not one tool that'll be able to fix this, right? And with that in mind, so let's start and look at it for the fact of, I believe that 1 in 3 trans people of color may experience at least some type of homelessness or the fear of rejection of being put out. And so like for me, back in the day, that was just mandatory. Like you were gonna get put out. Second you transition, it was like, hey, bye, we'll talk to you later, you know, and that's kind of what it was like. But now there's more options. But the reality is that those options don't even like weigh up to what's really needed, right? So there's resources that are that aren't accessible, right? And that's just like from a shelter perspective, right? So then you go from the shelter perspective, and then you look at like temporary living facilities. You don't have as many. One of them that's here locally in Houston is Ana Andrea with the Ana Andrea or the Casa Andrea. Casa Andrea is one of those. Can you all see me? Okay. Mm-hmm. Casa Andrea is one of those places that accepts trans people. It's predominantly for LGBTQ plus people of Hispanic descent or Latina or Latino or whatever. And like that's their main focus, right? But for us, when it comes down to trying to figure out how this is going to work to get trans people off of the streets, you have to look at it from everything. Look at it for the fact of whenever you go places, like when you go to work and when you're working, how many trans people do you see that are employed there? You know, people tell me that I'm amazing, I'm phenomenal and all this other kind of stuff. But how many Black trans women do you see in spaces like these? You know, for me, it hurts me because I sit there and I think about these people whose names I say whenever they've been murdered. And sometimes I have to speak at these vigils and all this other kind of crazy stuff and hear people talk about how amazing they were. How amazing they were. Baby, I'm simple. I like to sit back, drink my little whiskey and watch TV and talk noise. That's what I like to do and go fishing. I am simple. And people come to me and tell me I saved their life. People come to me and tell me that I changed their perspective. I made them be encouraged to go on and be them true selves. But just imagine people like Malaysia Booker, who used to get online and do story time and talk to people and encourage people. She could have been the person to come up with the cure for cancer. You know, just imagine, you know, and so with those things in mind, when we talk about how can we end homelessness, like we have to look at it again from the toolbox perspective and say that, you know, within that toolbox, there's a lot of tools and we just need to start being able to utilize those tools and know what they go for. So when we talk about being homeless, how do we get other people off of the streets from being homeless? We made sure that they had jobs and that there was security within those jobs. You know what I'm saying? We helped them to get careers instead of jobs so that they can have longevity. You know what I'm saying? We didn't bring them fried fish. We took them to the pond, showed them how to tie a hook and bait it, and taught them how to fish. Do you hear me? So it's like, we just have to start looking at these things from the perspective of trans people are still people, right? We're still people and we definitely exist. And that, again, that these are things that are definitely happening, and people should know this, and we should call it out a lot more. It's not fair that we have these types of situations that take place in people that are being homeless and denied shelter that legitimately should be able to access that shelter. So I definitely encourage more people to start standing up and speaking out, because a lot of times your tax dollars are also pouring into these places that are denying folk access.
Thank you so much. All right, so the next question is sort of, it can go for both of you, but maybe a bit more directed towards Juwan. So this person writes, as a gay man, I find it hard to make other gay friends because of the community drama and gossip that happens. Do you feel it's easier to find genuine friends in the hetero community because of this, or in the LGBTQ plus community because of the similarities?
Ooh, this is a good one. Okay. I will say the LGBTQ plus community can be a little messy. However, I will also say that the hetero community can be a little messy as well.
Thank you.
So, you know, both have their own kind of messes. But I would say that the thing about it, I feel like the reason why this question was brought up was because the LGBTQ plus community is smaller, especially the Black community. So it's like sometimes everybody knows everybody. And that could be a good thing or that could be a bad thing. And so, you know, whether with the hetero community, they have a lot more people, you know, within their community. So I feel like the word may get around a little bit, you know, slower than how it would in our community. However, as far as like friends are related, you know, I have friends in both, and I have a lot of friends that are both in the hetero community and in the LGBTQ plus community. The thing about it is you just have to find, no matter what community it is, you have to find those friends that, you know, are motivated and about their lives and also supportive of you. You don't want to find those kind of friends that, you know, talk to them about something serious and now, you know, your business is on the street. You know, those aren't your friends. Those are, you know, the Wendy Williams and gossip queens of the street. And, you know, some people may want, you know, Wendy Williams as a friend. I'm not one of those kind of people, you know, because she always be telling people business stuff. However, I feel like that both communities just needs to stop gossiping about other people's business, especially if that person tries to confide in you. I just think that that's very disrespectful. So my advice to you would just be find you friends that are genuinely friends to you, no matter if they are excuse me, in a, you know, gay, straight, non-binary, bisexual, lesbian, whatever. It shouldn't matter because at the end of the day, they're your friend. So I would just say that, you know, just get you some friends that are actually friends that's supporting you. And like always, you know, if you are, you know, trying to boss up and empower yourself, then you probably want to find you some friends that are trying to boss themselves up too, because, you know, a lot of people attract the same kind of people, you know, within their vicinity, especially as friends. So I would just say, you know, just worry about your life goals, and you bossing up, getting paid, or doing whatever you need to do. And just find you the friends that have that same mindset, because at the end of the day, we don't have time to talk about other people's business. Okay, like we got our own business to get to. And if you got time, then you need to find you a hobby or something. So yeah, that would be my advice.
So to piggyback off of what you were saying, I think that I can agree. I think that there's this other part of me that's also like, that you have to get to this place, right? So when I transitioned, it's so funny because like I talked about certain things and like sex and sex partners and all this other kind of stuff, and was something that we touched on. But like you lose a lot whenever you make this transition, right? And people don't understand that when you transition, like I coming out as a person who's bi, like that's a transition. Like you transition, right? You just didn't transition in gender. Right. And so I think that whenever it comes down to this whole conversation around friends, just like you said, cis people, hetero people, you know, whether or not you're heterosexual, gay, straight, whatever you may be, people will still be people because they people first, right? And just like you said, the gay community is a lot smaller than just everybody that's out there. You know, because guess what? It's some of the gay community that's just a part of some of them that's out there. And then when you talk about the LGBTQ plus community, baby, that's some of everywhere. You get what I'm saying? That's some sprinkles. And I think that the most important thing is that to whoever it is that posed that question, I think, and to anyone who else has that question, I think that what you should do is you should definitely take some time in the mirror. And when you take time in the mirror, whether or not you're standing in the mirror or you're just making a reflection of yourself in thought, right? You should really make a connection with oneself. And within doing that, it helps you to be able to understand the people that should be there. You must be mindful that some people are just like the way that the year goes. Some people are here for the season, baby. And some people just here for a reason. And some people are gonna be here for the long run. And you have to make a connection with self. I deal with so many different people and I love these people. I have trans women that I've been doing stuff with and helping them with all kind of stuff. And baby, we don't even sit down and have tea because that's not what I'm here for with you, baby. That's not what we do. You're not my friend. I'm not your friend. I'm an activist, I'm an advocate, I'm a leader. I'm here to help you if that's what you need, but we're not friends, okay? Don't be inviting me over to come over for dinner. Girl, just make the plate, put it in the bag. When I come drop your stuff off, give me my bag and we good. You know, and these are things that I had to literally do this and look at my reflection and say to myself that I had to be my best friend. I had to be my only friend. When I slept under a bridge, I didn't have a friend. When I had to fight people for spots to be able to lay, I didn't have a friend. All I had was me. All I had was me. And upon making that understanding and that connection, not so much about not having friends, but being able to connect with self in just the smallest way. You ain't got to figure out everything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, just stop, acknowledge yourself, maybe touch, breathe. And then from there, you'll be able to kind of look at things a little differently. Because if you're concerned about people being messy, baby, you're going to get messy people everywhere you go, whether or not they're straight, gay, LGBTQ plus, hell, people messy and they dead and they still messy, okay? So, you'll be amazed.
Thank you very much. This is the last question and it's for you both. Are there any Houston LGBTQ plus spaces where I may find a place to interact with others?
Oh, well, yes. You want to go first or you want me to go? Which one we doing? Because I can go first. You having a little technical difficulty, honey. That's why I didn't use mine. I plugged in. So you can definitely find out more about groups. If you would like to, you can go to the montrosecenter.org or you can Google Montrose Center. The Montrose Center has a list of a lot of the groups that are there. You can also go to genderinfinity.org. I believe it's .org. And sometimes they have resources that have a lot of the groups that are listed on there as well. It depends on who you are and where you are in your journey as far as being a member of the LGBTQIA plus community to be able to find out which group will be best for you. They have groups for elders. They have groups specifically for Black trans women, Black trans men, people that are non-binary. There's a ton of groups, and you can literally find out about a lot of those through Facebook, also through the Montrose Center, as well as Gender Infinity. Those are the three that I can think of that you can go and research to be able to find those out. And I think TENT, the Transgender Education Network of Texas, also has one. Now, also note something. You don't have to be a member of the community to be able to be involved in groups that are part of the community. They have groups for people who are parents of trans people or trans children or LGBTQ children or youth, plus youth. So like they have these different types of groups that are out there. You're welcome to reach out to myself as well if you need more help. I will tell you now, all I'm doing is sending you links. And if we get more into conversation, we can definitely get a little bit more in depth in that, but I can definitely make sure that I can connect you to certain people. Juwan?
Sorry, my earphones was cutting out. What was the question about Houston LGBTQ spaces?
I believe it was about groups, like meetings and like spaces where they hold groups and meetings for LGBT folk and LGBTQ plus folk.
Yeah, you would definitely know more about that than me. However, I can talk about the little turn-up spots. So there's some spots in Montrose. There's a lot of gay bars that are definitely gay friendly out in the Montrose area. I'm pretty sure it is, and there's just a lot of places to go, and they're just LGBTQ plus friendly. A lot of those places too, even if they're mainly, some places just have like these kind of nights. It's just for the night, they call it gay night, whatever. You basically will know if they have like a little rainbow flag like hanging outside. Usually if they have a rainbow flag, then okay, they're supportive. But I've only been in Houston for a year now, so I really don't know about, not nearly as much as DeeDee about those supportive areas. But however, if you want to turn up with the fun people in the LGBTQ plus community, then make your way to what's called the neighborhood and have yourself a good time, because I always do. Yeah, so that's my advice to y'all.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up the turn up, honey. Now you got me ready, baby.
Well, I didn't know what else like.
So look, people been inviting me to parties and stuff all at the club. I'm talking about some babies, everybody wearing masks. Jesus, a girl over here feeling old because I'm always asking about people wearing masks, and how in the hell I'm a twerk in a mask?
Okay, now listen. I also wanted to say
that's not even related.
I wanted to say what do I want to say? Oh, drag shows. Also go see a drag show, people. I know that there's a lot of, people that's not actually within the community, but, want to be supportive. Start with going and seeing a drag show and having the ones ready. If they are actually giving, then give the ones. I love being supportive of my community when they're doing the dang thing. And a lot of those girls do the dang thing.
Right.
So I definitely say, go see a drag show or two, and just be amazed at what people can do. Honestly, I mean, it's just great, and everybody's lit and turned there and stuff like that. So, I would definitely say, go do one, but bring your mask too.
Okay, please bring your mask. But the other part is so they have a place that's called Hamburger Mary's, and we're doing a shout out to Hamburger Mary's. So Hamburger Mary's is in the neighborhood, and it's definitely a place that you can go. One of the things that I'm so glad that you had brought that up, and I want to say this to you, I really appreciate you. I appreciate your Blackness, and I appreciate you for who you are. I appreciate you for acknowledging certain things. And I see, so I'm in sales, so I sell things, and I pay attention to people. And one of the things that I notice is that you acknowledge to yourself on certain things, and you be on it, baby. Because I love the fact that you understand and acknowledge, even if it's not consciously, you acknowledge erasure. And so one of the things that you did was you were like, you can go to the gay bars, but then you thought about something that not all people in the LGBTQIA+ community are gay. Right? And so I just really want to let you know that I appreciate that. Like, I really, really appreciate that. I really, really do. You got me really excited about going to Pride next year. Okay, because baby, we doing it big. It's marching, honey. I'm already telling you, you're with me. So don't worry about nothing. You just, when you get there, come find me. I was the honorary Grand Marshal last year. And then this year I was one of the keynote
so you
speakers.
got that juice. Oh yeah, I'm riding with DeeDee.
You know, we bring a speaker and we have somebody carry it for us.
I got to speak. Oh, and somebody carry. Okay, say less.
Okay, no, we don't know, babe. We don't do work. We don't do manual labor. Thank you. That's what you all are for.
I want to say though, because I am a moderator, even though I've been mainly talking, but thank you for taking the time to come here. I know you've had a very busy day. I know you're a very busy woman. But you taking the time to talk to us as well as everybody that's here, thank you so much. And I love the fact that I got to meet you, do this, whatever. And now, we can keep in contact with each other. But I know I learned a lot from you, and I hope that the folks out there learned a lot from you and from me as well. But I was very much so looking forward to it. I was just telling them, like, I was telling Jacqueline who's in here, I was like, yes, I'm looking forward to her to speak. So I'm very glad I got to hear you speak, and I'm very glad that you are here with us today. So
well, I appreciate that. I'm glad that you all even wanted me to come. I really appreciate it. What I was going to say is this, so that way I don't forget, because, I'm thinking about whiskey right now. So the thing is, wine, I got to be classy with y'all. Wine, baby, I'm drinking wine. But what I really want to say is this. You brought up something else too. And when you brought up going to go and see a drag show, there's also this issue that people have with getting drag queens mixed up with people who are also transgender, and not understanding that drag queens can be people who live as cis men during the day and only get in drag at night, because drag is actually for entertainment. Right. And to do drag is a form of entertainment. Although I'm an entertainer, and at one point in time, I always have people ask me, oh, you do drag shows? No, baby, I'm not that kind of entertainer. Those people are phenomenal. I'm simple. I do spoken word, monologues, and storytelling. I'm simple. I can't do all that hair and holding it and dropping it. Not for me. But there are trans people who do drag. And so, I really want to make sure that we express that to people too. So, RuPaul identifies as someone who's a drag queen. There's a difference because you'll go to a drag show and see someone in there doing drag, and because you think of RuPaul, hello somebody, you think RuPaul and you think he, because RuPaul identifies as he, him, that's what he uses. And then you think to see this beautiful trans person and think, oh, it's okay for me to be like, oh, he was so good. That's not cool. That's not cool. It's not cool at all.
And I did say she when I was referring to them too.
No,
and
you
you're
did.
totally right.
You did.
Yeah, you and I'm glad that you called me on that. You're totally right. You know, not a lot of times they don't identify as she, so she, he, they kill it.
Right. But I mean,
don't matter, you know.
It does matter, but at the same token, a lot of them, because they're entertainers and they're performing, and a lot of times they're performing as women, they are okay with the she part. You know what I'm saying? But it's also just to make sure that we remind people that when it comes down to this, like, people have freedom. And this is one of the ways for people to be able to express those freedoms. And when we talk about being better educated, then we have to look at the vocabulary which we're using and to understand that, like, drag is not how a person lives. It's not necessarily a lifestyle. It's a form of entertainment.
Right, absolutely. I
But I'm glad you brought it up. Oh, no, you did great.
Just in case if anybody else is on this call, I apologize about that.
Oh, that's appreciated. That's sweet of you.
Well, I think in order to make sure everyone gets their well-deserved wine time after this, I think we're gonna probably bring it. But I just want to reiterate, thank you both so much for taking the time out of your really busy schedules to come and talk to us. Thank you for everyone that came to listen. It was, for me, I just know this is phenomenal to get to hear from y'all and your experiences and learn from you. So thank you so much for that experience. And yeah, so just with that, before we end, I just have a couple of quick announcements about this series. So we're going to have one more series coming up. We're going to be posting links for all of that information, but a lot of this is done through getting funds through crowdsourcing. So please consider donating to our fundraiser so we can continue to host webinars like this throughout the Texas Medical Center. We'll have a GoFundMe page that's posted, or we also have a Venmo for one of our organizers, Srija. The handle will be listed in the chat. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We'll have a YouTube channel where we're putting all of these videos. And all of that will be found under our Linktree URL that will have all of these links, ways to get if you want to get involved with future events as well. So definitely look out for that in the chat and keep engaged with us. We really appreciate it. We're also planning on maybe doing some merchandising, so t-shirts, potentially masks, which you got to have that with your outfit during this time of year. So you'll be very fashionable if you get one of our masks. There's going to be a Google form where you can pre-order if you're interested.
Yes, Mike, you better.
The rhinestones will have to be like on your own time, but so anyway, thank you again so much for taking the time to talk to us. We'll see you in 2 weeks for our next segment in the anti-racism series, and please stay safe with Hurricane Laura approaching.
Thank y'all.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. If someone could you all put my information in the chat, because I can't see nothing. I'm sitting back here trying to be cute, so I ain't got my glasses on. You know, so if anybody could do that, that'd be greatly appreciated. And to those of you that were saying things to me in the chat, I definitely seen like my name popping up. I apologize if I didn't see it because I can't see it. I just can see my name. So I just want you all to know that I really appreciate the comments. I really appreciate the love, and I appreciate the fact of you all even just listening and tuning in. You know what I'm saying? Whenever I transitioned, I was told that I would never be anything. I'd never amount to anything. And here I am now. You know what I'm saying? Still ain't much of nothing, but hey, I am something and I'm bringing it. So, you know, it's greatly appreciated to know that people are at least willing to hear me out. And I can be my whole self within doing it. So I definitely appreciate it. And hey, while you're all at it, if you're able to follow me, go and check me out on YouTube and watch some of my stuff. You know, it may inspire you. It may make you laugh. It may make you cry. It may make you cook something to eat and invite me over for food, social distance, okay? But thank you all so much. And again, just like you were saying, please be careful and cautious about Laura. If you all are following me on Facebook, I will be posting a link that will be specific for trans people that may be impacted or affected by this hurricane. And I'm just trying to get ahead of things before it starts happening and people start losing their mind because they're experiencing this hurricane. So if you all know people that may need it, please reach out. We'll definitely get that information. Or if you all know trans people that need to be connected to resources or LGBTQI+ folk, I'm definitely happy to be able to assist in whatever way that I can.
Great. We'll be sure to send those resources out so everyone has access to them. That's wonderful that we'll have that.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you all ever need anything, anytime, please reach out. I'd love to be able to help. I'm so glad that you all thought of me to be able to do this. And I'm just excited to see what the future looks like. I hope that I was able to say something that, you know, made someone think, made someone see something different, or at least inspired someone, you know what I'm saying? So now it's time. I just heard my name be called by the wine bottle. I think everyone else's name is getting called too. You know, don't know what you all are doing, but I know what I'm doing. But I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Excuse me. And Juwan, how do you pronounce your name?
Juwan.
Juwan. Okay, Juwan. Baby, you just don't know. The second I seen you pop up on the screen, I sit there and said, okay, what's this supposed to be about? And then as soon as I heard you, baby, you had busted out with slides and stuff, child. I was sitting there, and mind you, I'm literally just sitting here. So like, this obituary is here, but it wasn't here because of like me doing it. It's here because I was typing something up. And I mean, baby, you had popped up there and had slides. I said, ooh, I said, oh Lord, I gotta get me a damn slide. Jesus. I said, oh Lord, so look, talk about something. I gotta start propping stuff up, talk about something. And on this slide.
You do what you gotta do. Your point still came across, period. So.
Hey, but no, you did great, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And I appreciate everyone who's involved. I don't want anyone to feel like I didn't appreciate them. But it's just something about Black Boy Joy, and it just really, it brings joy to my heart. And it's like, you know, and to be totally honest with you, to see someone like yourself, even to just identify as someone who's bi, like it means so much to me to see Black men just being able to exist in whatever that looks like. You know what I'm saying? To not have to be the most masculine of the masculine, to not have to be the strongest of the strongest, to not have to be the most feminist, to be able to just be able to exist, right? Like to be able to exist as you. And I think that is an absolutely amazing thing. And I hope that, I'm glad that your father took advantage of the opportunity and the option to still be a part of your life. Because if he wouldn't have, he would have regretted it. And that would have been okay, long as you would have been okay. No offense to your daddy, but you know what I'm saying, right? You know what I'm saying. But it brings me joy.
I really do appreciate that. Coming from you and what you've been through based off of, you know, what we just heard from you, that means a lot to me. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Baby, don't give up. That's the only thing that I can ask. And guess what? If you do give up, that's okay. Just don't give up on yourself. And even if you give up on yourself, redefine the definition of giving up to where your life still exists. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we get so upset and so scared of giving up. Hell, it just meant that it wasn't for you. It wasn't a part of your destiny. You can do it different. That's okay. But just never give up. And to anyone who's watching this, that's all that I really, really ask. That if you got something from this tonight, that you go ahead and you can either plant the seed somewhere else, or you can just pour a little water on it, whichever one that you want to do. Or you know what, if you don't want to pour no water or plant no seed, you can scoop the hell over and let the sun still be able to shine on top of it. So that way that seed can still grow. That's really what I want, because I know one thing that we're guaranteed is death. And you know, hey, somebody got to do this stuff afterwards. But for now, I would like to thank you all. Juwan, because you were also on here with me, I would like for you to do this with me. So we're gonna we're gonna close me out. Okay.
Okay.
All
right.
I'm using privilege. I'm using privilege right now.
Okay. Go ahead, girl.
Okay. Okay. You ready? Let me just shake it this one time. Okay.
Okay. What we doing?
So to everyone who's watching, thank you so very much for tuning in. On tonight, again, my name is DeeDee Waters, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
She said what she said, and my name is Juwan Copeland, pronouns he, him, and his.
Yes!
And that's the end of it. Thank y'all for coming.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.